Hi, I'm Lisa from Trails Edge Astrology. I got a wild hair this morning and thought that I would do a book review. So many of you have asked me about what books I recommend for people who are just trying to really understand their birth chart, who don't necessarily want to dive in and do the huge deep dive of memorizing all of the signs and the planets and the houses and the aspects and da 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 da. Da. Obviously, I love that stuff, but it's not for everybody. Some of us just want to have a basic understanding of how our birth chart can help us, how we can work with it, what are our creative challenges, all those kinds of things. And so let me talk about a few books that I recommend, and then you can pick. There may be others. I would love to hear if others of you have found some that are also in this vein of not making you dig deep into into all of the meat of everything. So before we do that, let me start out by saying, most of the books, or a lot of the introductory books out there, are like this Secret Language of Astrology book, and I love this book. But it goes through all the planets and all of the signs, and it's beautiful, like lots of pictures. It's gorgeous. So if you're looking for a book that just kind of that can help you go through in an easy to read format and has everything in it, this is one I really like. I actually met Roy Gillett. Roy Gillett is the author. I met him at a conference in 2022. It was a really small, intimate group, and so I actually got to have a conversation with him, and that was fun. And as I say, it's a gorgeous book. Um, the first astrology book I got was called, I think, The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need, and I must have given it to somebody because I can't, it's not on my bookshelves. Um, but it's even, this one isn't too big. It's a fairly slim volume to give you an introduction to everything. But that one was huge and really helpful. Really helped get me started. Um, but maybe more than you need. If you don't want to learn the whole lexicon of astrology, do you need that much? I don't know that you do. And um, and I think it gets overwhelming. I think sometimes people like stop there because it's just like, oh, you got to learn all this stuff, and you have to learn some things. But there are a couple books out there that I think really help pare it down in a nice way, and just kind of get you to where you need to go, in understanding your chart and your placements and how things show up for you. And again, what are those creative challenges? What are the things that may come easier to you, and what are the things that you're here to work on? So the first book I want to recommend is called You Were Born for This. It's by Chani Nicholas, and you've probably seen her. She does a lot of social media stuff. She's a lot of fun. I've never met her. She seems like a lot of. I like this book because it starts out with talking about the basics, the planet, signs, houses, aspects, and rules for putting it all together. But that's short. That's just the beginning. That's just like the taste. It's, just so you can kind of understand the framework if you want to. And then it's mostly an in-depth discussion of your sun, your moon, and your rising sign placements by sign and by houses. And then there's a little bit of a discussion of like how to think about, the conversations the planets are having, because really, honestly, that can be more telling about, or as telling about a planet in your birth chart than just where it sits in the sign in the house. It's what conversations it's having with other planets. So she does a really nice job of kind of walking through that, I think, in a way that's easy and accessible. And she's got some nice, like, she has these reflection questions that I think are interesting, to think about how something might show up for you. And just a sec. Well, maybe not. Thought I was going to sneeze, but maybe not. um, anyway, so it's a nice book. It's nice. It's easy to go through. It doesn't take a terribly long time. There's a lot in here. If your Mercury is not in the first house, you don't need to read this section. Um, so there's those kinds of pieces. But I think if you're looking to try and figure out your birth chart and not trying to understand everything before you can get started anywhere, this is a nice one. So again, You Were Born for This by Chani Nicholas. So to like that one. The one that I really started with is Astrology for Yourself, this workbook for personal transformation. This is by Douglas Block and Demetra George. And it's old. It was published in 1987. And when you look at it, I'm trying to find a, it just, the text copy just looks a little dated. But the information is really, really good. And so, she starts out with, again, the basics, like what are you looking at when you look at a birth chart? What can you look at? How do things connect? All those kinds of things. But what I really, really like about this one, let me find a good page, is like so she gives you a brief description of what you're looking at to figure out which way I'm going. So, you're the planet, Mars, the planet, and then she gives you a nice little, like a worksheet kind of thing. Like, figure out what does it mean for you? And she's got a nice appendix in the back so you can find a whole bunch of keywords. If I can get that. Keywords. So as you're filling out those charts, like you're not trying to come up with this stuff on your own or trying to remember it. You can go, oh, that makes sense for me. So, for example, I just opened to Jupiter. My planet Jupiter is in the sign of, and you write that down. In my birth chart, my Jupiter sign indicates how I seek meaning in life and expand my horizons. I can best express these potentials by fulfilling. And then you go back, and you look at her charts, and you like, okay, what does Sagittarius mean, what does Jupiter mean, and that kind of stuff. So I like that a lot. She's also got a nice place to journal a little bit, so you can write some things down if that is helpful. I love she does the traditional planets, so Sun, Mercury, Moon, Mars, Venus. I'm not saying them in order: Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. But she also, Demetra George is one of the asteroid goddesses, if you will, and so she does go into many of the goddesses, more than I usually work with. Actually, now that I'm looking, she got Pandora in here, Icarus. Anyway, just some takes it a little bit deeper, but again, really on that personal front. So she talks about the goddess, and then you've got the guide for like, how does this show up in my life? I just like that a lot. She then, when you get a little further back, you can get a little bit more in depth. So this is interpreting signs and planets and how to do that. And obviously, by the time I got this book, I didn't need to necessarily go through all of this, but yeah, it just nice ways to let you work through your chart with good examples of how to do that. Interpreting planetary aspects, like if you really wanted to get into it and really like look at all of your placements, like what does it all mean, and how do I put it all together with just kind of a nice flow chart for doing that. So anyway, all that is to say, I really like this one. I think it's helpful. I don't think you have to go through the whole thing to get a lot of meaning out of what your planets are saying for you and how to work with them. Yeah, so definitely recommend Astrology for Yourself, Douglas Block and Demetra George. And then the last one I want to mention is it's not one you necessarily need, because you'll probably just read like 2 pages of it. But I think it's fun. Is this Rise and Shine by Christopher Renstrom? Christopher Renstrom, if you haven't met him, is just he's a character, and I love watching his videos and his stuff. He's just so he speaks to me. He's so funny, and that could be because he's got a Mercury, I believe he's got a Mercury in Sagittarius. And if you ever meet somebody with a Mercury in Sagittarius, they are the best storytellers anywhere. So so this is a fun one. Christopher has gone through and matched up every sun sign and rising sign, and he's written a description about it. So he's written a description about each of those pairings, and they're just, as I say, they're fun. Do you need to own this? I don't know. I like it. I don't honestly, I don't necessarily reference it very often, but if I'm meeting with somebody new, and I just want to get an idea of kind of like their core self. I look up, what does Christopher say about this combination? And so I wanted to give you an example. So I am a Capricorn sun with a Scorpio rising, and he starts off by saying, people trust Tauruses with their money, Cancers with their children, Virgos to organize their lives, but they leave the serious business to you. Um, he goes on and on. It says, I'm the closer. You clean up the messes with the loose ends and the unfinished business. Um, that's why that's why you're listed in so many living wills and designated as the plug puller. Um, what else does he say? Um, you dream of a day when you can leave your harried life behind, but that won't happen. You're just not built for it. Your horoscope is drawn to stressful situations like a performer seeking the spotlight or a mystic retreat into silence. Um, this is where you come to life. You are best in relationships where your mate is just as busy as you are. Um, that makes your downtime together all the more precious. So anyway, just it's fun. It's fun. He's a good writer, and I like him. He's written one that I don't have called The Cosmic Calendar, and and I don't know that it's this kind of book where it really takes you into your birth chart, but I think it helps like take through the patterns. It's one that I've been meaning to get. Maybe I'll order that, and then we can look at that. Um, but there are cycles to the year and patterns and like living into those cycles, and so I think that's what it's about. Um, anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you today. Those are three books that I really recommend. Love Astrology for Yourself by Demetra George and Douglas Block. Love You Were Born for This by Channing Nicholas. Love Christopher Renstrom's work. And if you want a good general guide, in fact, I think I'll probably do another one of these on some good general guides to astrology, if you're looking to take it a step further. But if you're just looking to understand where you are, those are some books I recommend. I hope this is helpful. Please, if you've made it this far, like, subscribe, share, all the things. Help me grow this channel, help me grow this outlet. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.